Welcome to the show. You have found Mason Street Retirement Insights, where every week we turn to our resident financial advisor, Sean Mason. He is the founder of Mason Street Wealth Management right here in Fresno. And he's been helping clients retire with confidence for years. He'd love to do the same for you. So he is here today to break down some of the biggest retirement topics for us. Sean, I feel like delaying retirement is a really hot topic right now. I feel like we've actually been talking about it on the show a lot lately. And if you're about 10 years away from when you think you'll retire, you might be looking closely at how much you've saved so far. And if you're not happy, like many aren't, Yahoo Finance's Carrie Hannon says plan for ways to bring in more income. And one option is to work longer. Let's hear what she had to say.
I'm not saying pedal to the metal. It doesn't have to be. People who retire at 65, my goodness, you could have 2+ or 3 decades in retirement. So this is something to consider as an ongoing way to bring in some income as you approach, kind of tip your toes into retirement full time, right? So a lot of people may inch into this. They may work part-time, consulting. There's lots of ways to slice and dice it. But the point is, start thinking 5 years in advance about what that might be.
So that sounds good in theory, Sean, but I wanted to chat about what happens when that decision isn't up to them. How do you help your clients prepare a plan B for an unexpected early retirement? What's that process like?
Yeah, it does sound good. And so families come into my office, and when I ask them what their concerns are, they'll often say, I don't know what I don't know, meaning they understand how important it is to get this right, because when you give up the paycheck, there's no safety nets. And they don't want to find themselves in a situation they didn't think of and could have planned for. This is one of those areas most people don't think about. There's an organization called the Employee Benefit Research Institute. They do a lot of great work that's valuable to us for planning purposes. But each year they conduct a study, and not each year, every few years they conduct a study, and they poll 60-year-olds. And they ask them if they plan to retire before or after age 65, and the results are very consistent. 2/3 say after 65. And then they poll the same people at 67, and again, the results are very consistent. It ends up that 2/3 retired before 65. And there's many reasons why. I'd like to say they come to see me, and through comprehensive planning, they figured out that they had the resources to make that decision on their own terms. And that happens often.
Yeah, that's what we love to see, right? That's what we want to happen. But as you and I both know, Sean, that's unfortunately usually not the case, right?
Yeah, and as you said, usually it's circumstances out of their control, health issues, either with themselves or sometimes family members. Often the employer management team changes, making it unbearable for the employee. We see that a lot. Or sometimes the company just wants to replace the old guard with the new guard and pay them less. I've found through the 20+ years of working with families going through these situations, the fear of the unknown sets in, and it's crushing to the soul, and that's for good reason. They thought they had their retirement figured out, and now it's completely derailed. And when that happens 2 or 3 years earlier than planned, it can have a significant effect on their lifestyle in retirement. This is one of those reasons why you hear me say over and over, those families who have comprehensive financial plan in place right now will be so much better off. It can eliminate that fear of the unknown. Knowing consequences of the many hurdles that can hinder retirement lifestyle allows us to intentionally plan for them and mitigate their effects.
When retirement happens 2 or 3 years earlier than planned, that moment can feel so overwhelming for people. And there's so many emotions and decisions that are coming at you all at once. So let's kind of walk listeners through this, Sean. When you sit down with a client who's just found out they have to retire earlier than they planned, what's your process? Where do you begin? Do you start with their cash flow? Do you start with insurance, Social Security? What is step one when this happens to a client?
Well, no matter what the situation, we've got to figure out, what's important to them, who they are, what they're trying to accomplish, and what their concerns are. And then we got to start to plan from there. If a family comes in and they are all of a sudden in the situation to where they have to retire earlier, typically they don't have the resources that they were hoping for, and we're going to have a limited lifestyle. We've got to take into consideration their risk tolerance, the longevity, what we're expecting. So there's a lot of different elements that we have to take into consideration, but stress testing, what happens in certain situations, we got to make sure that we understand that what types of hurdles, what types of potholes can come, plan for those so that they don't find themselves in another unfortunate position.
Well, and just as important, what are some of the first things you would advise them not to do in those first 72 hours that they find this out? Because, sometimes people act on impulse and they might make a crazy big decision that then they can't take back. So what would you tell one of your clients not to do? What kind of hasty decisions would you say? Hey, take a beat, take a breath. Let's not act crazy.
Yeah, it's a really good question, because if I'm already working with them, they already know not to have any emotional decision making.
Okay.
But for people that aren't working with me already, you cannot panic, and you can't make decisions based out of emotion. So you've got to think through it. I always suggest get some professional consult. There's nothing wrong with doing that. It doesn't mean that you don't have it together. It just means that you're trying to improve your situation.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you don't want to be caught off guard. It all starts with having that plan set in place, and putting that plan in place all starts with a phone call. 559-847-0039 is the number that you're dialing right now. We've got a teammate standing by off the air, ready to answer your call. Let's set a time on the calendar for your complimentary retirement planning assessment with you and Sean. Sean, thank you so much. We appreciate your insight as always. And we will be back next week, same time, same place, to chat more retirement strategy. But until then, Sean, my friend, I am handing it over to you to take us out.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It's always good to hang out with you, Casey, and I appreciate all of our listeners tuning in, and keep coming back. We care so much about your success, and that's why we do this, and we're going to continue to bring you information that's just going to help you put yourself in a better position. So everyone, have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Mason Street Wealth Management, MSWM, is a registered investment advisor, and the opinions expressed by MSWM on this show are their own and do not reflect the opinions of Motivate Investments. Registration is not an endorsement by securities regulators. Investment advisory services are offered through Motivate Investments, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. All statements and opinions expressed are based upon information considered reliable, although it should not be relied upon as such. Any statements or opinions are subject to change without notice. The information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for any individual. Listeners are encouraged to seek advice from a qualified tax, legal, or investment advisor to determine whether any information presented may be suitable for their specific situation. Past performance is not indicative of future performance. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities, offered through Sean A. Mason, California, insurance license number 0B54860. The firms are separate entities. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company and are not offered by Motivate Investments. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. MSWM is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if MSWM is licensed in your state, please call 559-892-0002.